Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is reportedly close to resigning as his government is in tatters. The country's Finance Minister, Relied, announced she will quit cabinet on social media. Joining us live is former civil servant and professor at the University of Ottawa, Patrick Fafard. Patrick, really appreciate you making the time for us. Thank you. For our Australian viewers just catching up on the intricacies of Canadian politics, just explain for us how things have got to this point for Justin Trudeau.
So Mr. Trudeau leads a minority government in Parliament. His party does not have a majority of the seats in the House of Commons. So they've relied on the support of the New Democratic Party, the vaguely Social Democratic Party. And he's been behind in the polls by 15, 20 points for many months now. And today was supposed to be a mini budget, and it was to be presented by the Minister of Finance. But in the background, in an effort to sort of rally support for his government, the Prime Minister is trying to recruit some new members to his cabinet, including a new finance minister. And so in a bit of extraordinary political drama, the Minister of Finance simply just resigned on the day that she was to present a budget, and that put the whole government into disarray.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'm sure it would have. It sounds like unprecedented times here in Canadian politics. If Justin Trudeau does resign as expected, what happens next? Is there a likely successor waiting in the wings?
Well, that's part of the problem is that, well, there's a couple of things. First, under Canadian law and Canadian norms, it's very, very difficult for a cabinet or a caucus to get rid of a prime minister who doesn't want to leave. And Justin Trudeau has made it very clear that he thinks he's the best person to lead his party into the next election, number one. Number two, there is no obvious heir apparent. There's no one single person who everyone thinks would be the next prime minister coming from the Liberal Party. And so if he were to resign, and there are rumors circulating that that's what might happen, there would have to be a leadership contest, and no one quite knows what would happen. But it does mean that it would be several weeks, if not longer, before we actually had some clarity as to who the Prime Minister would be.
Whether it's Justin Trudeau or someone new installed as Prime Minister,
so we'll know.
Whoever takes over would have a fair few challenges ahead, wouldn't they? I was going to ask your analysis of how Canada's likely to fare under Donald Trump's second presidency.
Well, that's exactly one of the biggest single problems, is that Mr. Trump announced on social media a couple of weeks ago a 25% tariff on imports from both Mexico and Canada. A 25% tariff would be disastrous for both countries, but it would be also disastrous for Americans because Americans rely heavily on Canada for lumber to build homes, for oil and gas, for cars and car parts. And so everyone's playing this game of wondering, well, how do you respond to a threat like that? And opinion is divided. But one thing's for sure is that you want to have you want your Prime Minister to have as much political capital as possible. And Mr. Trudeau most certainly has very little right now.
Fascinating stuff. Patrick, really appreciate you joining us to explain everything going on there in Canada. Thanks so much for your time.
You're very welcome.